midnight, lightning flashing over its surface. Those storm-dark eyes were a study in temptation alone. She'd only ever seen such intensity in one person before. She shook off the unwelcome near miss of a memory. It had been a very long time ago, and that boy was dead and gone. This man made parts of her sit up and take notice. Forget his looks, you twit, and think. Ravenna shook herself hard, hoping to knock some sense into her own head. What were the odds that he would be at her table over this pot? As far as she knew, Mr. Chase wasn't known to frequent the exclusive gaming rooms of the Starlight Hotel. On occasion he'd have dinner at the exclusive restaurant there, a beautiful woman on his arm, but Ravenna had only glimpsed him from a distance. It would be impossible to live on an island and not know who wielded the most influence here, or the man who ran most of the trading ports in the islands. But powerful people made for powerful enemies, and she'd hoped to avoid him and escape his attention. No such luck, however. He did not resemble a soft, displaced Englishman in the least. Ravenna narrowed her eyes and fought the urge to yank on her sweltering, suffocating collar. While he didn't seem to be an expert gambler, she could tell he wasn't used to losing. She frowned. Had he meant to play poorly early on, so she wouldn't suspect him, and then lure her into this final snare? Or was she reading into things? Blast, her own sharp instincts were failing her. She peeked at her excellent hand, possibly a winning hand, unless her opponent held a natural of 21. The last round had seen all of the other players overdrawn, except for the dratted Mr. Chase, who claimed he was content with his 2 cards. Ravenna eyed them and ground her jaw in frustration. She was so close. She needed the money for lodgings and food, or even passage back to England. And besides, Mr. Chase didn't need it. He was richer than Midas, or so the rumour mill proclaimed. A bead of sweat rolled down her skin, beneath the linen drawn mercilessly across her breasts. She wished she'd left an hour ago, her pockets well lined and heavy. But no, greed, overconfidence, and plain stupidity had taken over, and she might as well admit it. Smitten lady parts. Not just because Mr. Chase was beyond a shade of a doubt unnervingly gorgeous, but because her shocking attraction to him, to any man, was something she had never, ever experienced. His arrival had thrown her off her game. Ravenna didn't fancy gentlemen. She didn't fancy anyone. In London, suitor after suitor had been foisted upon her, rich, titled, handsome fellows, and she'd felt nothing. Even when offers had been made, she had found a way to thwart them. After all, she'd been engaged twice and almost compromised into a 3rd betrothal. The first had been arranged in her infancy, but that betrothal had been squashed by her father when her future groom had taken off for parts unknown, without so much as a by your leave. Ravenna didn't know what could possibly have made Cordy do such a thing, but she hadn't dwelled on it. She'd been glad to be rid of the pesky menace. Over the years, the 2 of them had been occasional friends, but mostly enemies, having childhood adventures between their adjoining country estates in Kettering. He had been obnoxious and arrogant, and he had thrown it in her face that when they were married, she would have to do everything he said. He'd sported a blackened eye for weeks after that declaration. Much later on, after his disappearing act, she'd been saddened to learn from his brother that he'd perished from illness. Betrothal number 2 had been a momentary blip in sanity. After her brother Ryston's love match, Ravenna had felt the first stirrings of indecision. Didn't she want a family of her own? She would have to wed, eventually. Perhaps she could attract the ideal sort of gentleman, old, bored, maybe on his deathbed, and willing to let her live her life. Lord Thatcher had ticked all the boxes: widower, older, quiet, and after he'd proposed, she convinced herself she might have been content.